So as you can see by what's on screen right now, we have the Year 10 Season 2 Designer's Notes. These just came out with the huge CJX reveal with all of the Clash reworks and the shield nerfs and everything. So I'm going to go over everything that's new information that just got revealed in these designer notes. So first of all, what I want to go over are these attacker win deltas and defender win deltas for PC and console. I have it pulled up right here if you want to take a look. So as you can see, first we're going to go over the PC defenders. Obviously, Tachanka and Clash are the lowest as they're pretty hard to play. Rook, again, is still the highest defender. He has been for the past 2 years. I made an entire video on that if you want to check that out. And then Doc and Legion are being played the most. I think people like Legion because he's easy, and then Doc has an ACOG. It's pretty much, though, the exact same defenders that have been winning and the exact same defenders that have been losing. Now, for console defense, it's almost the exact same thing. People like Goyo a lot more on console because the vector's easier to control. So Goyo's picked more than Legion. And Doc has picked almost double the amount on console as well. And I think both of these defenders being picked kind of points out the issue with console of people valuing ACOGs a lot. Because on PC, you can kind of change your aspect ratio, which makes 1X's way easier to use. But on console, ACOGs are the way to go most of the time, which brings up a huge balancing issue that Ubisoft needs to address. But still, pretty much the exact same picks of people who are bad and people who are good and people who are overpicked. Moving on to attackers, let's go over console first. We have Ashe and Ace being played a lot. Think of with a very high win rate still, and then Send and the new operator Aura being very, very weak. I think these two operators are good operators, but you have to be like 5-stack, you have to be in Pro League, you have to be in like roller tournaments for them to be good. You have to have a really specific strategy in mind, but in solo queue ranked with the average player, it's just not going to do well. Even though all of these stats are from Plat and above, which are pretty good players, these operators still are not good. So they probably need to be easier to use in some way. And then just to speed things up here, we're going to go over the PC attackers. Again, think of being very high in the win rates, and then Ace and Ashe being the most picked operators makes sense. Sens and Raura also being the lowest for PC makes a lot of sense as well. So let's hope that they address some of the issues here. But first of all, we have ban rates. For console, Blackbeard, Jackal, and Dokkaebi are being banned the most. I don't really get why people ban Jackal. I feel like Deimos is just way better than Jackal, which you can kind of see with the PC ban rates. People are not banning Jackal nearly as much, and they are banning Deimos a little bit. But obviously, Blackbeard and Blitz and Dokkaebi are some of the most main issues in the game, and that's why they're being banned so much. And Ubisoft does address this later, so make sure you stick around. But Kapkan on console being banned the most makes sense. People hate Kapkan on console, even though you can just shoot his traps. On PC, Fenrir being banned the most is actually kind of a surprise to me. Whereas on console, Mira is banned more than Fenrir because of how good her gun is and how powerful her ability is. On PC, that's not really the case. Mira is actually banned almost twice as less than Fenrir is. So that's something a little bit interesting. But enough with the statistics, let's go over actual like operator changes, because nobody gives a fuck about this shit, dude. So Blackbeard, I hope this is a nerf. It is a nerf. I will be so thankful. I've asked for them to make it to like where it's more obvious when he's ADSing and when he's not, because it's not obvious when he's ADS'd or not, so you don't know when to shoot him and when not to. Or making him less mobile would be cool. Making him like slower would be nice. Let's see what they do. They said, we've been closely monitoring Blackbeard since the Year 9 Season 4 release, and we would like to share some details about his performance. One of our concerns with Blackbeard on release was to deliver a shield operator with good offensive capabilities, but without being the deadliest operator in town. After the remaster, Blackbeard's KD ratio has dropped around 25% to 0.09. This makes him sit slightly higher than Blitz at 0.08, meaning both shield operators sit in the low bracket for attacker KD. That does not matter. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if the KD of the operator goes down because the win rate of the operator is going up, right? So if this isn't a nerf, I'm going to shoot somebody in the face in GTA 6. Another important metric to consider is his impact and the team's success in compositions. Exactly. He's a popular operator, but is average when it comes to win rate. His ban rate has been rising since release, being higher on PC than console. We are not releasing any substantial change for Blackbeard this season, but we will update his shield with some quality of life changes. This decision is based on the shared data analysis and the fact that a new ban system is releasing this season, and we want to see how this ban rate adapts to the new system before we take any action. I guess that actually does make sense. If the new ban system's in place and people are still insta-banning Blackbeard, then maybe Blackbeard would be an issue. But if they're not, then maybe he's not. In this update, we've added a tinted layer to the outside of the glass that should help Blackbeard's enemies read faster and from farther if he's aiming down sight or not. Okay, that's what I was saying. They need to make it more obvious when you're ADSing, so they're tinting it, is what it sounds like, to make it to where you can actually see if the shield's up or down. We've also improved the glass movement audio so you can hear it as well to make it easier to hear if Blackbeard's aiming down sight or not. We will keep a close eye on Blackbeard's performance and his adaptation to the new band system and prepare future changes if needed. So they added a tint to the outside of the glass and they made improvements to the glass audio. That's cool. Clash, you probably should already know about this one compared to the Blackbeard rework. Clash is getting reworked for the new operator in Year 10 Season 2. They're not releasing a new operator, they're just reworking Clash. I personally think this Clash rework is a major buff. I do not think it's a nerf. I think it is a huge buff. You might think it's a nerf, but I'm going to tell you why I think she's going to be very strong after this update. Okay. Clash's shield and taser combination can be quite frustrating to play against. Her ability to damage enemies while being heavily protected makes her difficult to challenge, especially since the taser also slows you down, and the main counter is at melee range. Additionally, playing as Clash is not particularly engaging for many players, as her current mechanics do not offer a satisfying or interesting game experience. So I don't agree with the fact that like Clash is really that hard to counter. I think if you can't counter a Clash, you kind of just got to get good at the game. I'm sorry. Bring a Nomad, bring a Zofia, bring a Kali, bring a Capitao, or just wait for her to stop shocking you and then melee her, or just don't push her, or go under her, or pinch her with a teammate. It really just takes some kind of team coordination to deal with her. I think for newer players, she's definitely an issue, or people who aren't really used to countering her. But one thing I do agree with is the fact that it's not really fun to play. When I play Clash on stream, the chat is a snooze fest. No one likes watching it. I'm getting value and winning my team rounds, but I'm behind a shield the entire round. Barely am I pulling out the SMG unless I'm trying to go for a content play, right? So not really a fun experience. They said we have focused on 3 main pillars with this update. Enhanced movement, we're giving her more freedom of movement with her shield. She won't require any special sight setup to move around while still being protected. The shield will dynamically adapt to her needs, making her more versatile and agile. So I think what they're talking about is they're going to make it to where it's like Monty, where you can extend and unextend the shield. You don't do it manually though, it just kind of happens. So you'll be fully extended if you're holding the shield, right? But if you want to vault through a window or crouch through a crouch hole, it'll automatically shape the shield how it needs to be to fit through a certain space, right? So that's pretty cool. Shield as a gadget. Clash will be able to anchor her shield on the ground, allowing her to play around it without needing to rely on allies. This change provides her with more independence and flexibility in positioning. She can still use the taser against enemies facing the deployable shield, so she can now slow down enemies on one side while managing another angle or capitalizing on the effect by herself. This adds a strategic layer, enabling her to control multiple areas simultaneously, kind of like Smoke, and offer support to her team without having to be in the front line. So, unless I'm thinking of this wrong, essentially you're going to be able to play like old Clash, where you can shock people behind your shield, and you can set your shield down and shoot people while you're shocking people. So you can shock people behind your shield, and you can shock people when you're not using your shield and you're using your gun when you set her shield down. So literally all they're doing is they're getting base Clash, and then they're giving her the ability to set her shield down. That's all they're doing, right? So it's nothing but a buff. This is not a nerf at all. Unless you're not able to shock people when you have your shield in front of your face, but I'm 99% certain. Yeah, they showed footage of it. You definitely are. So what I kind of think is going to happen here is people are going to use it as like you would use Smoke. So you use the shield and you put it in an area where you know people are going to have to push, like rafters of Clubhouse, for example. People are going to play Clash, they're going to put her shield on the top of rafters right in front of the staircase, and if a Monty walks up, it's being blocked, first of all, so the Monty can't walk through unless he vaults through your shield. But secondly, you can just shock the Monty over and over and over again while having your Clash shield here, and then you can sit on the other side of 90 and shoot him while you're shooting him, and just prevent an entire rafters push, right? So that's kind of cool. And then it says fairness. The taser will no longer deal damage, which is fine, ensuring that Clash cannot kill an enemy while being fully protected by the shield. First of all, getting kills with Clash's electricity wasn't what made her good. It was the slowing down part. So her getting her damage removed doesn't really matter. Also, most people don't know this. Electricity through shields never did damage after the shield rework. It only slowed you down. It only gave you the appearance it was doing damage, but if you look at your health bar wasn't going down, especially as Monty when you were like fully extended. Clash didn't do damage to you. She just stunned you. right? So in terms of countering shields, Clash isn't going to change at all because she didn't do damage to them in the first place. So she's still a great shield counter, if not even better now. This aligns her more closely with other ballistic shields, maintaining the principle that you cannot be lethal if you cannot receive lethal damage. The intensity of the slowdown effect will also vary based on enemies' movement direction. Wait, what? The intensity of the slowdown effect will also vary based on the enemy's movement direction. I don't even know what that means. So does that mean depending on how the enemy's moving against your electricity, the slowdown effect's going to change? I want to see how that works. It's interesting. Enemies running away from Clash will experience less slowdown, preventing Clash from punishing attackers that don't want to face her. That's interesting. So if you're actively trying to run away from the Clash, you're not going to be slowed down as much. I think, honestly, that is a pretty big nerf, because one of the biggest parts about Clash is punishing people who want to run up on you when they don't know where your teammates are, right? Because, like, the biggest part about Clash is, like, hey, I'm going to slow this guy down while my teammate shoots him. So that's actually kind of good. That's a good nerf. Overall, these adjustments will make Clash a more engaging and interactive operator, enhancing her role as a versatile support player who can control key areas and disrupt enemy strategies. We believe the new Clash will be more enjoyable to play both as and against her. So, with her shield, she can sprint, crouch, vault, and dash through barricades like a normal ballistic shield, but the shield will collapse automatically while performing those actions. And then you can also free look like you can with the attacking shield as well. And then you can deploy the shield, and you can pick it up again. So it's not a one-time thing. You can deploy it, pick it up as many times as you want. But here's the thing. Clash is way more counterable now, right? So the shield can be destroyed with explosives. That's huge. It was not able to do that before, and I'm pretty sure if you're holding it, it can't be destroyed. It's only if it's deployed. Anyone can bash through the shield to destroy it. So you can literally vault through it like a barricade, and it's dead, gone. That's crazy. That's insane. You really cannot leave your shield anywhere as Clash or else you're cooked, right? A taser battery can be destroyed by a kludge drone. So all that means is that you can hack the shield as Brava, but you can't use a taser. Clash just can't use it. Also, another balancing metric that they're using for Clash is that they're removing her deployable shield. Considering your gadget is a deployable shield, that can also shock people. This makes sense, so I like that. Also, if you didn't see in the actual reveal trailer that I reacted to yesterday on my YouTube video, you should go check that out. Sledge is able to knock back Clash. He can just whack her with the hammer, and then boom, she's just on her butt, and then he can shoot her. So Sledge counter shields now. He can also impact EMPs like they're saying to just make it to where she can't even tase him, and then he can just, boom, kill it. So that's pretty cool. Next up, they have a nerf to Jackal. I think they meant for it to be a buff, but honestly, it's a nerf. They say, we believe that the most frustrating aspect of Jackal's ability is the time he can keep you pinged with relatively low effort. Scanning a hottest red set of footprints, even though sometimes it's dangerous, allows him to track the enemy for almost half a minute without putting in any additional effort or being in any kind of danger. To address this issue, we have decided to reduce the outcome of scan to always result in a single ping. This means that scanning a set of footprints will give you the precise position of the enemy, but it will last as long as a regular red ping. Keep in mind that the scan set will be erased when the scan is completed, so Jackal will be trading precise location for the ability to actively track the target until he reaches its last known location. So, I don't know why they're nerfing Jackal, and I don't know why you, the player/viewer, is banning Jackal, which is what made them nerf him in the first place. Deimos is better than Jackal. Deimos is just a better version of Jackal. I think he has been since his release. So this doesn't make sense to me as to why they're banning Jackal at all, but whatever. They're saying, however, we want to enhance his ability to actively track targets as we believe this is his real strength and the one that better balances the risk and reward. Therefore, we have increased the duration of the coldest/blue footprints. These prints will now be between 60 to 120 seconds old, so they don't provide a lot of information, but will help him get on track faster. So that means that, like, if people have old footprints, the old footprints last longer. So like what would happen a lot of times is people would just go upstairs on a site like immediately within the prep phase, and then because they went there immediately, their footprints decayed by the time you'd get in the building. So you'd be a Jackal player looking for footprints, and then somebody with no footprints would kill you, right? So now that can't happen, which is pretty cool. It says, remember that footprints are not generated during the preparation phase, so defenders are free to move around and prepare the site for the assault without being punished. Even if a defender is late returning to the site and gets scanned, they will only get pinged once and all the footprints will be deleted from the map. So they increased the scans to 5 from 3, and they reduced the ping to 1 from 2 to 5. And of course, they increased the duration of the oldest footprints. So they're buffing Jaeger. I do like this change because I think Jaeger's pretty weak right now, but essentially Jaeger and Womai serve the same role in denying projectiles, but their different methods should ideally complement various strategies and playstyles. Feeling forced to choose one over the other based on the specific projectiles you expect to face rather than your overall strategy doesn't seem correct. Therefore, we are normalizing the list of interactions so that they both attack the same projectiles. I agree with that. Furthermore, this rule made the game more complicated to understand for newcomers as they needed to learn specific interactions between operators of a generic rule. This approach is more sustainable in the long run and makes the game more user-friendly. So they made it to where Capitau's bolts, whether it be the fire bolts or smoke bolts, get destroyed by ADSs, and so do gridlock track stingers when they're in the middle of the air after you throw them. They also changed Thunderbird, so it says, despite the recent enhancements to the Kona stations, the potential risk of enemies exploiting them outweighs the benefit they provide, limiting their viable placement to situations where they should be most helpful. Therefore, the Kona station will no longer target enemies. That's great. They should not have been healing attackers in the first place ever. I think this actually might make Thunderbird a viable option. But with a change to Brava, it says due to the new changes to Thunderbird, the Kludge drone will no longer overheat a Kona station and destroy it. Instead, its alliance will shift to target attackers rather than defenders, making it a valuable asset if you're a Brava player. That's good. Next up, there is a target to Ela. A lot of people don't know this, but Ela is also getting a change. It says there was a mismatch between the detection area of the area of effect of a Ela mine, which could lead to confusion during gameplay. The area displayed when deploying the mine was smaller than its actual effect. This discrepancy could cause Ela to mistakenly believe she had the advantage when someone triggered the mine, only to find herself affected along with her victim. By aligning both values, we aim to enable Ela to better leverage her positioning around the mines and avoid unintended consequences. Insane that this was in the game for so long, by the way, but whatever. We have decided to reduce the concussion range instead of increasing the area of detection because Ela is currently placing them according to the detection area, which seems sufficient to fulfill her playstyle. Doing it the other way around would be detrimental for her, as the Scorpion and the FO-12 are both effective in short-range engagements. So they nerfed her concussion range by 3 meters from 7 to 4. I think that is dumb. I think they could have just decreased the other metric and it'd have been completely fine. But now Ela got a nerf for a silly reason, I think. Anyways, Zofia also got changed. Similar to Ela, there was a discrepancy between the detection area and area of effect. Although the issue is not identical, we have decided to normalize it as well. The adjustment ensures that the concussion grenade is more accurate and affects the intended target rather than everyone in the room. This change addresses the discomfort among teammates, as any ally attempting to synchronize with Zofia to take down a target was most likely affected by the grenade, and they were unintended collateral. So the detection range for the concussion was reduced to 4 meters from 5, not a huge change at all, and the range of the concussion was reduced to 4.25 from 7. I also don't like this change. I think a big part of Zofia was that she had a lot of range in her concussion, and you could use that for info. So if you don't know, when you throw a concussion into a room that has no defenders in it, the concussion has like a 3-second delay before it explodes. However, if there is a defender within the range of the concussion, it'll actually explode earlier. So you could use that to clear a room. If you didn't have a drone, you send a concussion in, and if it didn't blow up, you knew the room was clear. And if it did blow up immediately, you knew there was a guy in there. But with the reduced range, that's going to be pretty unreliable, as sometimes it'll be delayed because the range is shorter, so people won't affect it as much. So I don't like that change. A change I do like, though, is the electricity change. This shit is hot. With this update, we're making electricity a neutral element, ensuring that all gadgets and operators in the match are vulnerable to electricity, regardless of their team alliance. This change is accompanied by improvements designed to make interactions with electricity clearer and more forgiving for players. Electricity will no longer cause damage to players. Instead, operators will experience a reduction in movement speed. Also, I think this is good for Maverick. Maverick's whole thing is being able to Maverick walls that are electrified, and making it to where its electricity is damaging you kinda sucks. We have also reviewed how operators get electrified. Now operators must intentionally interact with electrified gadgets to get zapped. Walking on electrified surfaces will electrify operators, but merely being close to an electrified wall will not. Operators will need to interact with the wall by deploying or vaulting it to become electrified. That's awesome! A huge buff for Maverick players. Electricity will still destroy electronic gadgets, but defender gadgets will no longer be invulnerable. Another buff to Maverick. Essentially, if you Mav a line in the top trying to Maverick a wall, they can't put a C4 on the wall and explode you through your Mav hole unless you make it too big, right? So, huge buff to Mav. This change requires defenders to exercise more caution, especially when throwing gadgets through small holes on electrified reinforcements or operating moving drones like Echo's yokai. So, the damage to operators was removed from the electricity effect. They added more slowdown to operators with the electricity effect. And of course, the electricity is now neutral and affects equally every team, which of course only affects Bandit and Cade. They're also changing how limbs are damaged as well with bullets. So it says, by reducing the damage to limbs, we aim to emphasize skillful gameplay. We encourage players to target more critical areas like the head or torso, which demands greater precision. This approach makes the gameplay more challenging and rewarding. Additionally, it enhances tactical depth, as players will need to carefully consider their positioning and aiming before taking the first shot to ensure a successful elimination. This change promotes more thoughtful and strategic gameplay, preventing players from being easily eliminated by a few shots to the arms or legs. I think this is great. All this is doing is increasing the skill ceiling for mechanics, which is always something that you want. I'm not going to read over all of this. If you want to, you can pause the video right now, but essentially they're just reducing damage inflictions for a bunch of different things if they hit the limbs. They're also changing repel, removing the requirement of having a breach charge deployed on a window to execute a repel breach, allowing operators to use different tools like a sledgehammer, shotguns, or explosives to destroy barricades while repelling provides more tactical options and adaptability in high pressure situations. This flexibility leads to more creative and dynamic gameplay as players can choose the best tool for the situation. It enhances the immersion of the game, making the gameplay experience more engaging and intense. I think this could be really, really broken, especially in ranked, and if they can't hear you repelling, you essentially can play sledge, get on a window, start repelling into the window, and then last second sledgehammer and then just be in without them knowing, right? Absolutely crazy. I do think this could honestly take away what a Maru does, but regardless. Furthermore, players can think strategically about their loadout and approach, using a shotgun for a quick breach. That's gonna be stupid. A sledgehammer for a silent entry or a breach charge to ensure synchronization will significantly impact the outcome of engagements. This flexibility also enhances team coordination, as players can plan and synchronize their breaching strategy based on the tools available to them, promoting communication and teamwork. Now, to be clear, you can't just repel in barricades like Blackbeard can. It says it has to be sufficiently damaged by the end of the interaction. Otherwise, the operator will bounce back and damage the barricade with its feet, which is cool. You're not just going to bounce on the barricade, you're going to actually kick it when you mess up. And now we have the long-awaited shield nerf. So, shielded operators will need to plan their paths more carefully, as they will no longer be able to aim down sights while vaulting over objects, through windows, or barricades. So previously, Blackbeard could repel into a window without breaking it while he was ADS, essentially getting a free kill. But that's not the case. If he's able to silently repel through a barricade, he can't do so ADS, and then he has to slowly and loudly ADS, which can get him killed. This adjustment will reduce their lethality when navigating through barricades, requiring them to rely on teammates to quickly capitalize on targets. We believe this change will encourage more strategic movement around the map and enhance the overall tactical experience. So aiming down sights is cancelled during the interaction, and it affects Blackbeard, Blitz, Fuse, and Monty. Also, here's the rank distribution. I'm going to tell you why this is really, really bad in a second, but the majority of players are in Copper and Bronze. This is only because there are some players that start playing the game at the beginning of the season and stop. If everybody who played the game for, you know, let's say 150 games per season, this would look like a lot more people are in like the silver to gold area, right? You don't have as many people in Champion anymore, which is pretty good, but this is a logarithmic graph right here if you were into math at all in high school. It should look like a bell curve. You have the most amount of people in the middle and the least amount of people in the low ranks or the high ranks. That's what you want a ranked chart to look like for balancing perspectives, but it's never been that in Siege, and it hasn't for a while, because either you had way too many people in Champion or you had way too many people like now in Copper and Bronze. And I think that's unfortunately a cause of how the rank system works now. Everyone starts from Copper and works their way up instead of having placement matches. I personally think having placement matches is a much more reliable way to have a ranking system that works, unless you have hidden MMR. So I think Siege either needs to stick with Ranked 2.0 and just make the matchmaking a lot worse to have more skillful lobbies, or they need to revert back to Ranked 1.0 where they had the placement matches, they didn't have hidden MMR, and just fix the ranked system back in Ranked 1.0 with all of its kinks that it had and make an actual perfect ranking system. But with it out of the way, that is every change that's coming to Year 10 Season 2 specifically, not to mention all of the other Siege X changes like the map reworks, the fire hydrants, and all that other stuff. So let me know what you are most excited about for the new season. Follow me on Twitch, and then check out this next video.